Well, good morning and welcome to Center for Spiritual Living, Texas Hill Country. I am Beth Warren, the senior minister here at CSL, and I will be facilitating the lesson for you today. And our theme has been this month, 28 Days of Transformation. And we are in week 4 of 28 Days of Transformation. And over these past 3 weeks, we've engaged in the process of transformation. First, by clearing, and we were saying an affirmation or having a forgiveness practice to help us do the clearing internally. But I'm also encouraging you to do the clearing in either your wallet, your house, your car, whatever it may be, but some physical clearing to go along with that, because that creates a vacuum then. And the next thing that we did was by listening to and beginning to answer the calling. And we know that the calling comes in the form of either a longing or a desire for, or a discontent regarding something. So the calling comes, we're always in an evolutionary process, and that calling comes to us as a longing or a discontent. And we also talked about navigating the gap between who we thought we were and who we really are. And that we are a child of God, or we're godlings is what I like to say. And today we are taking the steps, well, we've been taking the steps toward committing to transformation as a way of life. And today there is something very important that we must do. And today we're going to look at how God uses trouble or turmoil or difficulties as a tool for transformation. So let me say that again, how God uses trouble as a tool for transformation. So just take a deep breath. Well, I received this note from the universe not long ago. You remember Mike Dooley's Notes from the Universe? I don't know if you all still get it or not, but I do. How adventurous would life be if you were challenge-free? If you had the perfect body, the perfect self-esteem, everyone adored you, and you won the lottery every Sunday? Not. Now, what if, painful as they may temporarily be, you could choose a life during which challenges might arise whenever your thinking needed expansion on the soul condition, that every one of them could be overcome, no matter how daunting they may first seem to be? Now that's an adventure, baby. So today's talk is entitled Transformation Through Trouble, but it could be called The Adventure of Adversity as well. So are you ready to go on an adventure together? I hope so. So let's get going. And I want to begin with a series of questions. You know, don't you, that it is the nature of creation to evolve? And you know, don't you, that the universe uses chaos, disintegration, falling apart, stirring up, breaking down, explosions, and all sorts of things that could look messy as vehicles of evolution. And I love the Eastern saying, before brilliance, chaos. Before brilliance, chaos. And do you also know that within all of that chaos, there is already the higher order? And in the midst of all of the disintegration, falling apart, stirring up, and breaking down, explosions, there is already a higher order potentiality. Do you know that? That is in our teachings. Do you know that you are part of the nature of the universe? And so what looks like chaos, disintegrating, falling apart, stirring up, breaking down, things happening outside your control, such as a scary diagnosis, a sudden job loss, the death of a beloved, a rejection, a betrayal, whatever it may be, it has within it a higher order of potentiality. And here's the final, do you know? Do you know that whether you or I will take that problem, that trouble, that adversity, and actually use it for our evolution, and use it for our expanded thinking, use it for a higher expression of aliveness, and use it for a deeper experience of God, is completely, entirely up to us. It is all in how we approach it. Challenges, adversity, trouble, these things are just part of life. And our Science of Mind teachings do not promise a life trouble-free. Come on, if you go on a soccer field to play soccer, you better get ready to get your knees scraped. It's part of the game. It's part of the game. Challenges are part of life whenever our thinking needs to be expanded and transformed. But how we approach the game makes all the difference in the world. Do you know that? Well, since we know all of that, then of course the question is, how do we approach it? So we squeeze every last drop of benefit out of it and take our next evolution around our spiral of evolution. I'm glad you asked that question. First and foremost, it is so important that we do not do a spiritual bypass around the problem. We can do that sometimes, especially in the New Thought teachings. If we don't look at it, it's not there. But really, we must identify the problem, the challenge, the trouble. We don't ignore it. We don't pretend it's not there. We don't deny it. We identify it. And if we are honest, there is always one we can find, whether it's in economics, relationships, a deep sadness, or pain regarding something that happened a long time ago. My experience is that the presence of God is flat, and I'd like to be more alive, is what you may be identifying with. So you identify the problem and then bring a certain mind to it. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. 3 ways we can bring our mind to it. The first way doesn't really serve us, but the second and third ways do. The first way will keep us exactly where we are. The other 2 will move us toward the evolution. So let's just sort of take a look at each one of these situations. As I get my notes straightened out. The first is upset. And upset comes when we resist what is. Let me say that again. Upset comes when we resist what is and we move into a mindset like life is hard. This always happens to me. Not this again. What now? This isn't fair. Nobody knows the troubles I've seen. After all I do for the world, this bad stuff that couldn't possibly be of God. This happens when we resist what is. Anyone ever done that? Anyone doing it right now with a situation? Is this approach going to support our evolution, our expansion, our having a greater experience of God, the good in our lives? I don't think so. But, and this is an important but, it may be necessary for a short time. Remember, we don't want to do a spiritual bypass. So it's important we feel our feelings. We stomp our feet a bit and we have an itty bitty pity party or a gigantic pity party if need be. It really is okay to do this, but it does not support our evolution to stay there. When you're going through hell, Keep going. Don't stop and build a condo. Here's a story, a true story to illustrate the second way of being. It is told in Eckhart Tolle's book, A New Earth, if you've read that book. And it is about Krishnamurti, a sage and teacher who traipsed around the world for decades, teaching the message of truth and oneness in his own way. And people followed him for 20 or 30 years and couldn't really grasp his simple message. And one night he said to his followers, I am going to give you my secret. They knew he had something that they couldn't get their mind wrapped around. Everyone sat up, straightened up. And finally, after all this time, he's going to lay it out. But what he said is, I don't mind what happens. I don't mind what happens. That would be a big improvement for some of us, or perhaps for all of us, some of the time, wouldn't it? For us to come to an awareness that whatever is happening right now is really no big deal would be a gigantic step forward, wouldn't it? I don't mind that this happens. What a powerful place to be. That is the second way of being, simply neutral. My chant was always, this too shall pass. This too shall pass. This is a big scheme of things, but this is not a problem. So I don't know how or where or when I'll get out of it. I just don't have to be stressed about it. I don't know what the blessing is, but I'm going to be busy looking for it. I'm going to spend more time looking for the blessing in it than I am going to spend arguing with the what is. I am simply in the inquiry, and I wonder what good will come from this. My pages are sticking together today. And with enough practice and enough time spent in neutral, access to the third way, excitement, is not far off. One day we may just be excited and we can't even believe it. It doesn't make sense, and yet we are. There is one power, God the good. We either believe it or we don't. You have cancer. You got fired. You were betrayed. Everything is as it should be. Who would you be in that moment of understanding that this too is for you and this too is good? My mama, I always called her mama because she didn't like the term mother. She thought it was too formal. And her experience with cancer. She got to minister to the doctors and nurses and the surgical staff throughout the journey of the process. She went through it knowing that God is all and all is peace and all is as it should be. Not resisting what is, but being at peace with what is. And she told her doctors, I want you to know that this is not a problem for me. This is just part of the life. I am suited up in life. She wanted to be the person who changes the way future generations look at cancer and death. And because of the way she showed up, the doctors and nurses and ministers, all who came in contact with her, had a different experience of it. I'm not saying that she didn't resist in the beginning, but as she came to accept her situation, she was able to do that. So there's three ways of being. old, painful, stressful way and resisting what is, or the neutral, open, counting our blessings, this too shall pass. That's probably where I spend most of my time. I haven't gotten to the excited phase at times, but excited to see what good there is in it, a life of joy and happiness, setting examples and being the model. And when you can move into this third way, you really are putting God first, and it changes everything. There is a recognition that there is no thing that is greater than God. And this doesn't mean that everything is to our liking or preference, but there is nothing bigger than God. And we are remembering that within the problem itself is the orchestration of the possibility of a much higher order of living. So we bring a new thinking, a transformed mind to whatever trouble we are facing this day. And for a moment today, find yourself thinking in an expanded way and open up and say to yourself, in fact, let's say this together. Right where I am, the wisdom of the universe is. The wisdom of the universe is. Right where I am, answers to every question are accessible because right where I am, God is. The problem I'm facing cannot be solved at the end of thinking that creates them. But there is another level of thinking available. It's available right where I am because right where I am, God is. I'm going to say and read that again. Right where I am, the wisdom of the universe is. Right where I am, answers to every question are accessible because right where I am, God is. The problem I'm facing cannot be solved at the level of thinking that creates them, but there is another level of thinking available. It's available right where I am because right where I am, God is. I know there is one power and one universe and one spirit and one infinite intelligence, one source that I call God. And please know with me, God is limitless, unformed substance that is everywhere present and available. There is only the perfect life of God, and the perfect life includes and expresses as the divine qualities of love, peace, joy, and prosperity. Because God is everywhere present, I am one with God, and I am deeply aware of my unity with the presence and the power of God, and I am invisibly linked with this infinite source as an individualized center in the perfect life of spirit. And I express the love, peace, joy, health, abundance, and wholeness of God. Because right where I am, the wisdom of the universe is. And right where I am, answers to every question are accessible because right where I am, God is. The problem I face cannot be solved at the level of thinking that creates them, but there is another level of thinking available. It's available right where I am because right where I am, God is. And please know with me that each and every person here today is an individualized center in the perfect life of spirit and expression, and expresses the love, peace, joy, health, abundance, and wholeness of God. And our collective consciousness now remains focused on the process of transformation and releasing all limiting thoughts, known and unknown, which no longer serve us. We now release all of the fear, the doubt, the anger, the shame, the hurt that limits us. prevents us from receiving our good. And we say, dear God, I surrender all of these limiting thoughts and beliefs. Please take them from me. And we now allow love to flow in, through, and around us, healing and releasing any doubts and fears. And it is with a profound sense of gratitude that I release these words to the universe and allow the law to produce in form the life of love, joy, peace, health, and prosperity that my soul desires. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. And so it is.